For young girls walked into the university with big dreams, but none of them knew that one desperate decision would change their lives forever. What started as fear of failing exams slowly turned into a dangerous secret, a secret that nearly destroyed their future. Hello everyone, my name is Mona, and today I'm going to tell you a shocking story that took place in New York. This story is about pressure, fear, wrong choices, and the heavy price people pay when they take shortcuts instead of facing their problems. It all began at one of the most well-known universities in New York City. Four girls had just started their first semester. Their names were Emma, Olivia, Sophia, and Mia. They were all different in personality, but shared one common dream: to succeed in life and make their families proud. Emma was confident and outspoken. She always believed she could handle any situation. Olivia was emotional and sensitive. She cared deeply about her parents' expectations. Sophia was stylish and social. She loved attention and enjoyed being popular. But Mia was different. She was quiet, honest, and hardworking. She believed in doing things the right way, even when it was difficult. During the first few weeks, everything felt exciting. New classes, new friends, new opportunities. They spent time exploring the campus, attending lectures, and dreaming about their future careers. But slowly reality began to hit. Their classes became harder. Assignments piled up. Exams approached faster than they expected. And then, the day came that changed everything. It was the day their first semester results were announced. Students gathered around the notice board, nervously searching for their names. Emma walked forward confidently, but the moment she saw her grades, her smile disappeared. Her marks were far lower than expected. Olivia checked her results next. Her hands began shaking. She had also scored poorly. Sophia and Mia rushed forward, and within seconds, all four girls stood frozen in silence. Their marks were low, much lower than they had hoped. Fear slowly filled their hearts. That evening, each of them returned home with heavy thoughts. Emma's parents were strict and disciplined. The moment they saw her results, anger filled the room. "What is this?" her father shouted. "We sent you to the best university, and this is what you give us." Emma tried to explain, but her father refused to listen. "You will fix this," he said firmly, "or you will come back home." Meanwhile, Olivia faced a similar reaction. Her mother cried while holding the result sheet. "We trusted you," she said softly. "Don't disappoint us." Sophia's parents were equally disappointed. They reminded her of the money they spent on her education. The pressure grew heavier with every passing moment. But Mia's situation was the most painful. Her parents didn't shout. They didn't scream. Instead, her father spoke calmly. "We believe in you," he said. "But you must work harder." Those simple words filled Mia with guilt. She didn't want to disappoint her family. The next day, the four girls met at the university cafeteria. Silence filled the table. No one wanted to speak first. Finally, Emma broke the silence. "We need to fix this," she said. Olivia looked worried. "How?" she asked nervously. Sophia leaned forward slightly. "There must be a way," she said. Emma lowered her voice. "What if we talk to the professor?" Mia frowned immediately. "What do you mean?" she asked. Emma glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "I heard some students say that Professor Harris sometimes helps students increase marks if they request him personally." Mia shook her head quickly. "That doesn't sound right," she said firmly. But Olivia looked desperate. "I can't face my parents again like this," she whispered. Sophia nodded slowly. "Maybe we should at least talk to him," she suggested. Mia hesitated. Deep inside, she felt something was wrong. But the pressure from her friends slowly pushed her toward a dangerous decision. Later that afternoon, the four girls walked toward Professor Harris's office. Their footsteps felt heavy. Their hearts pounded loudly. Professor Daniel Harris was known as a strict and powerful professor. Students respected him, but also feared him. As they reached his office door, Emma knocked gently. "Come in," a deep voice replied. They stepped inside nervously. Professor Harris sat behind his desk, reviewing papers. He looked up slowly. "What do you want?" he asked calmly. Emma swallowed nervously. "Sir, we wanted to discuss our grades," she said. Professor Harris leaned back in his chair. His eyes studied each of them carefully. I don't change marks without reason, he replied coldly. Olivia felt her hands trembling. Sir, we worked hard. Maybe there was a mistake? She asked softly. Professor Harris remained silent for a moment. Then a strange expression appeared on his face. He closed the file slowly. There are ways to improve marks, he said quietly. The girls exchanged nervous glances. Mia felt a chill run down her spine. Something about his tone didn't feel right. Emma leaned slightly forward. What kind of ways, sir? She asked cautiously. Professor Harris stared at them without blinking. His voice dropped lower. Special favors sometimes lead to special results. The room fell silent. The meaning of his words hung heavily in the air. Mia's heart began racing. She looked at her friends, hoping someone would object. But instead she saw fear, desperation, and confusion in their eyes. At that moment, Mia realized something terrifying. They had just stepped into a situation far more dangerous than failing exams. And this was only the beginning of their nightmare. The room felt colder than before. None of the girls spoke after hearing Professor Harris's words. Special favors sometimes lead to special results. Those words echoed in Mia's mind again and again. She felt uncomfortable, almost trapped. Emma was the first to break the silence. Sir, we just want another chance, she said carefully. Professor Harris leaned forward slightly, resting his hands on the desk. There is always a price for second chances, he replied calmly. Olivia lowered her head, trying to avoid eye contact. Sophia glanced nervously at Emma, silently waiting for her to respond. Mia's heartbeat grew faster. Something about this situation felt deeply wrong. We will think about it, sir, Emma said quickly, trying to end the conversation. Professor Harris gave a slow smile. Take your time, he replied. But remember, opportunities don't come twice. The girls walked out of the office without saying another word. The moment they stepped into the hallway, Olivia grabbed Emma's arm. What did he mean? She asked nervously. Emma looked around to make sure no one was listening. I think he meant, he can help us change our grades, she whispered. Sophia nodded slowly. But at what cost? Mia asked, her voice filled with worry. No one answered her. That silence made Mia feel even more uneasy. Later that evening, the four girls gathered at Emma's apartment. Rain poured heavily outside, creating a tense atmosphere inside the room. Olivia paced back and forth nervously. I can't fail this semester, she said. My parents will never forgive me. Sophia sat quietly, scrolling through her phone, clearly stressed. Emma leaned against the wall, thinking deeply. Finally, she spoke. If we fail, everything is over, she said firmly. Mia shook her head immediately. There must be another way, she replied. We can study harder, ask for tutoring, request reevaluation. Emma sighed heavily. There isn't enough time, she said. Olivia looked at Emma with desperation in her eyes. So what do we do? She asked softly. Emma remained silent for a moment, then spoke in a low voice. We meet him again. Mia's eyes widened. No, she said quickly. This is wrong. Sophia looked at Mia. And failing is right? She asked sharply. Mia felt trapped between fear and pressure. She wanted to do the right thing, but her friends were losing hope. Days passed. The pressure from families grew stronger. Every phone call from home made their fear worse. Finally, Emma made the decision. She texted Professor Harris. We need to talk. Within seconds he replied. Come to my office tonight. Alone. That message made Mia's hands tremble. Night fell over the campus. The university corridors looked empty and silent. The four girls walked toward the professor's office together. Their footsteps echoed loudly in the quiet hallway. When they reached the door, Emma knocked gently. Come in, Professor Harris's voice replied. They entered slowly. Professor Harris stood near the window, watching the dark sky outside. Without turning around, he spoke. So you came back? Emma swallowed nervously. Yes, sir, she replied. Professor Harris turned around slowly. His eyes scanned each of their faces. I assume you have made your decision, he said calmly. Silence filled the room. Olivia's hands trembled slightly. Sophia avoided eye contact. Mia felt her chest tighten with fear. Professor Harris walked closer to them. "There are rules," he said quietly. "And if anyone speaks about this, your academic careers will be finished." Those words felt like a threat. A cold warning. Mia felt her throat dry. She wanted to speak, to protest, to leave. But fear held her back. From that day forward, everything changed. The girls began living in constant fear. Professor Harris started calling them individually, giving instructions, controlling their schedules. Sometimes he sent messages late at night. Sometimes he demanded private meetings under different excuses. The pressure became unbearable. Mia stopped sleeping properly. Her mind remained filled with guilt and fear. One night, while sitting alone in her room, Mia stared at her phone. Her boyfriend, Ethan, had called her 5 times. She hadn't answered. She didn't know how to explain the sudden changes in her life. When she finally answered his call, Ethan sounded worried. "What's going on with you lately?" he asked. "You seem different." Mia forced a weak smile, even though he couldn't see her. "I'm just stressed about exams," she replied. But Ethan wasn't convinced. "You can tell me anything," he said gently. Mia felt tears forming in her eyes. She wanted to tell him the truth, but fear stopped her. Meanwhile, Olivia started having nightmares. Sophia avoided social events. Emma became quieter than usual. The weight of their secret began destroying their peace. Then one evening, something unexpected happened. While leaving the campus, Mia noticed a black car parked near the main gate. Inside the car, she saw Professor Harris watching them. His expression was cold, serious, threatening. Mia felt chills run down her spine. Why was he watching them? What was he planning next? That night, Mia couldn't sleep at all. Her mind replayed every moment from the past few days. The fear had become too much. And deep inside, she realized something terrifying. They were no longer just students trying to fix their grades. They were trapped in a dangerous situation, controlled by a man who had power over their future. And the worst part, their nightmare was far from over. The fear inside Mia had reached its limit. Every day felt heavier than the last. She could no longer concentrate in class, no longer smile with her friends, no longer live peacefully with the secret they were hiding. One evening, Mia sat alone in her dorm room, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes looked tired. Her face looked pale. She barely recognized herself anymore. At that moment, her phone rang. It was Ethan, her boyfriend. She hesitated before answering. "Hey," she said softly. Ethan's voice sounded serious. "Mia, something is wrong," he said. "What do you mean?" she asked nervously. "I saw you near campus yesterday," Ethan replied. "You looked scared. And there was a man watching you." Mia's heart skipped a beat. Her hands started trembling. "What man?" she asked, pretending not to understand. "The same professor I saw you talking to before," Ethan replied. Mia felt her throat tighten. Ethan continued speaking. "Mia, you're hiding something." Silence filled the call. Mia closed her eyes. Tears slowly rolled down her cheeks. For days she had been carrying guilt alone. But now she couldn't hide it anymore. "I made a mistake," she whispered. Her voice trembled with fear and regret. Ethan remained silent for a moment. "What kind of mistake?" he asked carefully. Mia wiped her tears and spoke slowly. "Something happened with our professor. And now we're scared." Ethan's tone changed instantly. "What did he do?" he asked firmly. Mia hesitated. She was afraid. Afraid of consequences. Afraid of losing her future. But she was more afraid of living with guilt forever. So finally, she told him everything. Not every detail, but enough to explain the pressure, the threats, and the fear they were living with. Ethan listened silently. When she finished speaking, his voice sounded determined. "This isn't your fault alone," he said. "He abused his power, and he needs to be stopped." Mia felt both relief and fear. "What if he ruins our future?" she asked. Ethan replied firmly. "He already has." That night, Ethan made a decision. Without telling Mia, he wrote an anonymous complaint to the university administration. He described suspicious behavior, late-night meetings, and pressure from Professor Harris. Days passed. Nothing happened at first. But behind the scenes, the university had started investigating. One morning, while the four girls sat in class, something unusual happened. Two university officials entered the classroom. Behind them stood a security officer. The room became silent instantly. Professor Harris stopped speaking. His confident expression faded slightly. "Professor Harris," one official said calmly, "we need to speak with you." Students exchanged nervous glances. Professor Harris tried to remain calm. "What is this about?" he asked. "You'll understand shortly," the official replied. They escorted him out of the classroom. Mia felt her heart pounding loudly. Olivia grabbed Sophia's hand nervously. Emma looked confused. No one spoke. Later that afternoon, the four girls were called to the administration office. Fear filled their hearts as they walked through the long hallway. Inside the office, several officials sat around a table. Security officers stood near the door. Mia felt her hands shaking. One official spoke calmly. "We have received reports about inappropriate conduct involving Professor Harris." The girls froze. Their worst fear had become reality. Another official placed documents on the table. "We also reviewed campus security footage." He turned a monitor toward them. Video clips began playing. Late-night meetings. Private office visits. Moments that clearly showed suspicious activity. Olivia covered her mouth in shock. Sophia looked down at the floor. Emma clenched her fists nervously. Mia felt tears forming again. Professor Harris was then brought into the room by security officers. His face looked pale, angry, and desperate. He glanced at the girls with cold eyes. But this time his power was gone. One official spoke firmly. "Professor Harris, you are suspended immediately while the investigation continues." Moments later, police officers entered the room. The sound of handcuffs echoed loudly. Students outside the office began whispering. Rumors spread across the campus like wildfire. Professor Harris was arrested on charges related to abuse of authority and misconduct. Mia watched silently as he was taken away. For the first time in weeks, she felt a small sense of relief. But the consequences were not over yet. Days later, the four girls were called again to the administration office. Their parents were present. So were their boyfriends. The tension inside the room felt unbearable. Mia looked at Ethan. His eyes showed concern, not anger. Olivia's boyfriend looked disappointed. Sophia's boyfriend avoided eye contact. Emma stood silently, unable to speak. One university official spoke clearly. "You made a serious mistake," he said. "But after reviewing the situation, we have decided not to expel you." The girls looked up in shock. "You will receive an official warning," he continued. "And you will attend mandatory counseling sessions." Relief mixed with shame inside their hearts. Tears rolled down Olivia's cheeks. Sophia wiped her face silently. Emma lowered her head. Mia felt overwhelmed with emotions. She turned toward Ethan. "I'm sorry," she whispered softly. Ethan nodded slowly. "We'll fix this step by step," he replied. Days later, life slowly returned to normal. But nothing felt the same. The four girls remained quieter than before. More careful. More aware of their decisions. They spent long hours studying, determined to rebuild their future honestly. Mia often thought about how close they had come to losing everything. And she promised herself she would never take shortcuts again. Because sometimes one wrong decision can destroy years of hard work. And sometimes the hardest lessons leave the deepest scars. But they also make people stronger. If this story taught you something, take it as a reminder that shortcuts often lead to dangerous consequences. Always choose honesty, even when it's difficult. If this story kept you watching till the end, don't forget to like this video. Comment below and tell us, what would you do if you were in Mia's situation? Would you stay silent or tell the truth? And make sure to subscribe to this channel, because the next story might be even more shocking than this one.